Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the From the Stands podcast. We're here in the fantastic Port District change rooms and we've got a very special guest alongside us this afternoon. Scott Lycett, 2018 premiership player, former player with the West Coast Eagles and the Port Adelaide Football Club. Scott, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Really appreciative of your time and thank you for agreeing to come on and join us on the From the Stands podcast. Really looking forward to this one and a special thank you to Port District putting this together as well. Really do appreciate everything they've done to put this on and make sure you get down to a game. How'd you get into footy, Scott?
I started at a young age, so I first started playing footy in the mid-north with Borough, so BBH Rams. My dad played there and coached there and played a couple of games for Min-Man as well, and then we made our way out to Sojourner, so played out that way as well, played with Everard Magpies, and just loved it ever since I can remember. Always wanted to be an AFL player, that was a dream, so happy I can say I lived out my dream.
Who were some of the players that you grew up idolising?
I used to love Jonathan Brown. I remember he used to try and take speckies over my brother and say, that's Jono Brown, so he was a favourite, Dean Cox was a favourite. Just so many players that I used to look up to, being from the country, you don't really get to see AFL players as much, so when I saw one, they were like gods. So
you moved across to Adelaide in 2008. How difficult was that move to make in terms of moving away from your family, but also you had to make it to chase your dream?
Yeah, it was tough. So I moved over here when I was just turned 16. Sammy Gray and I lived in the same room for 2 years, which was interesting. So that's why we're so close, and I guess why we got such good connection on the field. We played together for a long time, so but it was tough not seeing your families. So I moved out at 16, and then I lived in Adelaide for 2 years, and then moved over to Perth for 8 years. So I was away from my family for 10 years, basically. So it was quite tough, but as I said before, lived out my dream, and Mum and Dad were pretty happy to come over to Perth as much as they could to watch me play.
You played SANFL in your draft year. Do you think that prepared you a little bit for AFL footy?
Definitely does. Yeah, I think if you're ready for it, it prepares you. So, and if you're good enough. So I think it was definitely impactful for me in my footy, playing at a high level at a young age. But being a young ruckman playing against established guys in SANFL was a bit of an eye opener because obviously they're a lot stronger and more experienced. So, but that just drove me to get better. So that was what made it good for me.
Did you have to make adjustments to your game to play against those guys?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now I'm the older guy with the strength and stuff like that against come up against most of the younger guys. So, but it's mostly about experience, I think, like how to use your body. And most people are strong, but it's just how you can use it and what positions you put yourself in. But yeah, I think strength is massive in terms of playing in the ruck. But there's certain things that you can do in that position that doesn't just require strength.
You played in the U18 Championship. What did you gain from that? And for someone, right now they're obviously going on for 2024, for someone that's playing in those currently, do you have any advice for them?
Just work hard, play to your strengths. I think, when I was younger, I used to just put a lot of pressure on myself. But I think when you play at that level, you're obviously a good player, so you just got to think about what your strengths are. So when I got to a certain age, I just put everything behind me, and the pressure and everything. I just thought, there's a reason why I'm here. Because I'm a good footy player, because I've got these areas that I'm good at, so just go out there and do those things that I'm good at. Pretty simple.
You played with Carey in those championship games as well. What's he like?
Yeah, he's a ripper bloke. And from time to time at Adelaide Oval at training when he's in Australia, not overseas anymore, but he's such a humble person and a hard worker. So he started out with footy and now playing for Australia with cricket, so he's got a lot of hard work, dedication, loves his fishing like I do, so hopefully I can get out with him for a fish at some stage and try and show him up.
Where's your favourite spot to fish?
I can't go past Sojourner. Yeah, it's definitely, because it's so far away, it's pretty untouched, but I know some pretty good spots that not many tourists know, so which is nice.
And in terms of that moment when they read out your name at the AFL draft, can you just try and take the listeners into that kind of moment and what that meant for you and your family?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. I remember all my family was there in Adelaide and we watched it, and with my draft all the talk was I was going to go, I think it was pick 16 to Port Power, so they picked up Ben Jacobs at the time, which was surprising because I think a lot of talk was that I was going to go there, but then I had to wait and got to pick 29 and got picked up, and it's just complete euphoria. I think as I said, you grow up, it's like a dream, and it's since you can remember, and basically once you do get drafted, it's like that's when the hard work starts, because you realise once you get there after being drafted, you actually have to get a game, which a lot of players get drafted and then don't actually play AFL. So yeah, it took me a few weeks to realise that, but then you thrust straight into pre-season, which is tough as nails in Perth when it's 40 degrees every day. So, but yeah, it was just amazing feeling.
Did you notice pretty quickly the differences between an AFL environment and a SANFL environment?
Oh, there's a massive difference. I mean, taking nothing away from the SANFL players, I think they work harder than anyone. They've got full-time jobs and then go train at night for 3 hours, 2 or 3 times a week. Just imagine what that'd be like with families and stuff like that as well. It'd be pretty tough. So a lot of respect for the SANFL players, but yeah, obviously AFL players, it's their job to stay fit and healthy, and you know, you're out there in the 40 degree heat for 3 or 4 hours running 15 Ks 3 times a week in the pre-season. So yeah, it's tough. I'd say I've been in rehab quite a bit as well with my AFL careers, and the rehab isn't easy either. So but yeah, both SANFL and AFL are incredibly tough.
You get to the club and you're working alongside some champion ruckman. You've got Dean Cox, you've got Nick Natanui. What did those boys teach you across your time with them?
Yeah, I've been lucky to work some really good ruckmen. Dean Cox, Nick Nat, Jimmy Micklejohn at Port Adelaide when I was there, Paddy Ryder, Nathan Vardy, and the list goes on. So I've been lucky to work with some really good ruckmen, and basically, yeah, Coxie and Nick, they just taught me hard work and play to your strengths. Yeah, what two better blokes to learn off? They're both all Australian and very decent players. So yeah, it was lucky. I think being around such good players and such hard workers definitely helped my career.
Toward the back end of 2011, you made your debut. Do you remember much from the week leading up and the game itself?
Yeah, I remember it pretty clearly. So I played, and the reason I played was because Dean Cox threw a tennis ball at Josh Kennedy and it hit him in the eye. So he missed, and Nick Nat was out with just a corky or something like that, something minor. So I played with Coxie that game, and it was my first game. I think it was Eric McKenzie's 50th, Matt Prittis's 100th, and Adam Selwood's 150th. So we had a win against the Bulldogs. I kicked 2 goals, kicked a goal in the first minute, my first kick. So it's definitely something I'll never forget.
Talk us through the goal.
Yeah, so it was Quentin Lynch tried to kick a goal from about, I think it was 70 metres out, landed at the top of the goal square in the first minute of the game and just bounced over the pack, and I roped it and kicked it through the goals, and actually hit by accident, because I kicked the ball so quickly, I kicked it into the goals and I hit an old lady in the face. She was wearing glasses, so it kind of cut off her face a bit, so I didn't realise that until after the game. And yeah, I sent her some flowers and said sorry and things like that, but she was fine with it. She was a mad West Coast supporter, so it was a bit funny, but not funny at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's what they mean by body on the line.
Yeah, that's it.
That grand final in 2015, you don't play. How tough is that for you personally, sitting there and watching your team get, I don't know, there's another word for it, demolished by Hawthorn?
Yeah, that was tough. I think I hurt my knee that year, so I was part of the squad. I was in the parade and all that kind of stuff, and I remember Simo said to me a couple of days before the game, we want you in the squad just to train and just take everything in, just in case we get back here. Yeah, it was pretty smart coaching by him in the end, because we were back there 3 years later and I was playing, so I was definitely so grateful for Simo for giving me the opportunity. And but watching the game, yeah, it was pretty tough. I think we were never in it, and yeah, it's a long flight home to Perth when you get smashed in the grand final in Melbourne.
When did you know, sort of, during the game that it wasn't going to happen for you?
Pretty early, yeah. I think it was quite early. The boys didn't look like they turned up to play, and I found out that I wasn't playing. I think it was Thursday or Friday for the Saturday game, and yeah, it was sad. You know, your teammates that you train with every day. You know, some of your best mates and your mates are there, and to see them how flat they are. And not just them, the supporters and everything that goes into it. It's like a big week, and I suppose people can accept it if you put up a fight, but the boys didn't turn up to play that day.
Take us inside the rooms after that game. What's it like? We always see on TV, we always see the winners, but what's it like inside the losing rooms in a grand final?
Yeah, it's like it's probably a bad analogy, but it's like someone's died, really. So it's not something you really want to be a part of, but it's just part of the game. There always has to be a winner and a loser, but yeah, it's very sombre and deflating, flat feeling. So I'd probably describe it like someone had died. Yeah, that's what it was like for me anyway.
When Callum Sinclair moved across to Sydney, he was the other ruckman in the 2015 grand final. Do you think that helped launch your career a little bit, that he made way for you?
No, I don't think so. I think there was a stage there at the start of that year where we were kind of vying for spots for each other, and then I started that year and I just was a bit out of form. He came in and he was in form and he started playing more consistently. Then I got injured, and basically I think the club knew that, but that's my opinion. But we definitely pushed each other to get better. But I think, I always knew that if I played my best footy, I think the club knew then I'll be given the opportunity, and that's why I was at the start of the year. But grateful for working with Sinkers just because we made each other so much better. When he left, I just was lucky enough to stay injury free. And the following year, I think I played every game for the only time I did my whole career. So it made me a better player.
You've had obviously a lot of troubles with injury coming back from the knee at the minute as well for Port District. Was that so frustrating for you throughout your career and not being able to just string things consistently together?
Oh yeah, it's very frustrating. And it wasn't just the injuries I had. I've had 3 recos, but I've had 3 infections. I've had multiple clean-outs, 1 more clean-out, and I need a knee replacement, the surgeon has just said, so try and avoid that if I can. And it is frustrating because I'd probably still be playing AFL now if I wasn't injured all the time. But that's just, a lot of people have been worse off than me, so I'm quite grateful for what I've achieved and what I've done. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it would be nice to still be playing, but you can't play forever, so I'm not naive. But yeah, I'm happy with what I've achieved.
Being trapped in the reserves and waiting for your opportunity, how frustrating is that on a personal level? And then do you have any advice for someone that's currently going through that on an AFL list?
Yeah, it's quite frustrating. The only advice I can give is the only thing you can do is just to keep working at your game and getting better, because I had Dean Cox and Nick Nat in front of me when I first started, and I was playing in the Waffle and I was playing quite well, and pretty much any other team I would have been getting a game, and that was for probably a couple of years. So I just keep working on my game, keep working on my craft, and basically it's hard work beats talent, so you have to keep working at it, and that's what I did, and it made me better, so I'll definitely say that to anyone coming up.
From 2015, you grow both as a team and then again personally as well. 2018 rolls around. At what point in that season did you guys know you were a good shot at a premiership?
Probably at the halfway mark. I think the halfway mark we'd won 8 or 9 in a row. I think we went on to win 10 in a row, something like that. And we had a lot of confidence boosters throughout that year. I think we beat Collingwood at the G, first time in like 20 years or something like that. So that gave us a lot of confidence as well. And just little milestones. I think the same thing, we hadn't beaten Hawthorn in Melbourne for 10, 15 years or something like that. So once we started hearing about these things, that just made us grow in confidence even more. And as I said, everyone just had a role. So we had a simple game plan going into the finals. Everyone had a role, and everyone just executed their role. So
those statistics and stuff, you haven't beaten Geelong, for example, is a fantastic place to go and play football because it's so hard to beat down there.
Yep.
Teams like Port Adelaide, who went down there and won recently for the first time in 21 years. Why it's downplayed on a broadcast, it's that behind the 4 walls, does that have an impact mentally on players? 100%,
yeah, definitely. I think it's a team game, so obviously everyone's going to think about how they're going personally, but as a team, if you see that you getting these results, I think it definitely helps you in the long run.
Dom Sheep picks that winning goal. What went through your head?
I think it was about 2 minutes to go, something like that. So what was going through my head is, we need to get this next centre bounce. But yeah, I remember him kicking it, and I just thought when he took the mark, where he marked it, he's going to have a shot. I was like, there's no way. But then you can see the crowd behind him, because I was watching behind him, because I was on the bench at the time, and I could see that the people standing up as he kicked it, and I knew that was going to go through. So I was just complete euphoria, but also it was daunting at the same time, having 2 minutes to go. So it was like, it was just crazy to be a part of. But looking back, pretty awesome.
Were you desperate to get back on the ground?
I was, but I was probably a bit of a liability at that stage, because I think I played every game that year, and I was only just getting through. I think for the grand final, the prelim, the first final, and last game of the year or something, I had 2 jabs in my groin before the game, 2 jabs at half time, so I was only just getting through. And I don't think if we had a draw and played the next week, I would have been touch and go. So it was lucky it happened the way it did.
They've got a brand new stadium, a big one, and they're going to put a big flag up there in a moment because the Eagle has landed for the Premiers in 2018.
That moment, that final siren goes. Just talk us through that.
It's very, very hard to explain. I think, it was just unreal. Like, can't really put it into words. I'm going to be mates with those guys for life and have bonds that not many people can say they have. So it's just, I can't really explain it, but it's just something I look back on even now. Like, I've only just retired recently, less than a year ago, but I see photos here and there. People talk about it all the time, and it's it's something that will never go away, which is pretty awesome.
There's been some fantastic teams that haven't gone on and won premierships. The St Kilda and the early ends come to example. Do you think it's a different? People speak about it in a different light now because you guys have won a premiership. You guys have gone through and been so dominant, but you hadn't won a flag. Do you think it differs how people speak about it and how you guys feel about it?
Probably. I think my time at Port, we got pretty close as well. We got to 2 prelims in my time there, and they're looking not too bad this year either. So, I think another team that was like that was probably the Bulldogs. I think around the 2010s as well. They had like 4 or 5 prelims and just couldn't go past that final hump. So it's not like people don't forget that, but I think winning the grand final just solidifies that you're a good team and you would never be forgotten, really.
The Western Derby that year, and I do want to touch on it, feel free to pass because this one's a bit of a touchy question, but Andrew Gaff punches Andrew Brayshaw in the head. He misses the grand final. What was he like in the rooms, firstly after the Western Derby, and then again after the grand final?
Probably similar, to be honest, in both games. I think a bit distraught, a bit remorseful, and just very, very upset. I'm quite close with Gaffy, so don't mind talking about it. But it was just tough. I mean, I remember being around Gaffy on the grand final day on the field just before we got our medals, and you could just see how devastated he was. And it wasn't a dampener on the day. It was for me a little bit because I'm good mates with him, just because I've obviously been a part of it as well. But I don't think what happened, but I don't think he was trying to do what he did. So, but unfortunately, he punished the action, not the intention. So I'm sure he's come to terms with it, and he's a grown man, so he'll move on from it. But I'm sure it's something that he regrets.
You'd watched a guy that come into the club with you. You'd grown up together. You'd learned together. How difficult is it for you to sit there and be happy in your own achievement, but also look at it and go, geez, I wish he had a premiership medallion around his neck because he deserves it as well?
Oh, I've met a lot of players like that. Yeah, it's Robbie Gray deserves one, Travis Boak deserves one, a lot of players deserve one. So it's hard because with footy, AFL, you work so hard, everyone works hard. The people who don't work hard don't last very long. So it's hard because you have to work hard, but you need a bit of luck as well. You need not many injuries. You just need your form to be in the right place. You need everyone to be playing their role. So there's just so many things that need to go right. And there's a lot of luck that needs to be involved as well, I think.
The difference a little bit as well between Boakey and Robbie is that their teams didn't win premierships. Andrew's team did win a premiership, obviously, but does that change a little bit to how you look at those situations around those players?
Yeah, I mean, they are 2 different situations. So I think not many people would argue that Gaffy doesn't deserve one. I think that it's fair to say that he doesn't after what he did. But in my opinion, I think he does, just because he would have played every game that year. He was probably All-Australian the year before. I think he's had 2 or 3 All-Australians. So there's no doubt if he was available to be picked, he'd be one of the first picked. So yeah, he should have a medal, but unfortunately, you can't change the past.
Adam Simpson was the mastermind. What was he like as a coach, and what kind of impact did he have not only as a footballer, but also as a person?
Yeah, Simo was awesome. He kept it very simple for us in the final series. We didn't We didn't change up the game plan or anything like that. It was just very, very simple. Basically what we did was we just said kick it long down the line near the boundary. We're a good stoppage team, so we just get as many stoppages as we can, and that's basically pretty as simple as it was. Kick the ball through the big sticks basically as well. But yeah, Simo was great relationships with guys. He's definitely had a couple of favourites. Gaff was one of his favourites, probably still is, but definitely is. But yeah, he was hard on me, which I liked. So yeah, I think he knew how to coach every player individually and how to get the best out of them. So that's why he's such a good coach.
And in terms of the next 24 hours, do you remember a lot of the next 24 hours after that grand final?
I do actually, but yeah, it wasn't just the next 24 hours. It's probably the next 2 weeks. So it was quite a big party for a couple of weeks, and I knew that I had to celebrate it because I knew I was going to Port. So I knew I had to make the most of being around all these guys, and because I was going to go. So I think the best thing about it is, like I said, you form this bond with these guys and you have it forever. And none of them, I think, judged me too harshly for going back to be with my family. So I made that decision a few weeks before the grand final. I wasn't just like I won the grand final and I decided to leave. So they're just a great bunch of guys, and it was just such a good party afterwards as well.
Do you wish a little bit that you'd stayed at West Coast to try and defend that crest, try and go back to back? Only a few teams in history have ever done that.
You always have the doubts in your mind. I think, you always sometimes sit back and wonder what if. But I'm happy with how it's all played out. Spent the last 5 years of my career in Adelaide, and I wouldn't change it now. But there were times where you wish, especially when that weren't going so well, I was like, I wish I could help them. But as I said, I wouldn't change what I've done.
In terms of Harley Reid, I know personally you probably haven't met him, but he's gone over as an interstate player and started playing at West Coast. As someone that's done the same thing, just how difficult is that to be A, away from your family, and B, to have, I guess, the expectation that he's got on him as well?
Well, being away from your family is massive. I think it's hard, but as a young player, and especially AFL, you're quite busy all the time. So you find time to speak to your parents and things like that, but I think the hardest part of it, being away from your family, is the pre-season when the time difference is quite large in Perth. So from Melbourne, for him, it's 3 hours. So basically you're leaving the club at 4. Well, I was leaving the club at 4, 4:30 or 5, and Mum and Dad were just about getting ready for bed. So that was the hardest thing, coming from interstate. But it's I'll never know what it's like to be him, but I think all the hype and the media attention that he's had, I couldn't tell you what that's like, because what's he been on the back page of the paper like 90 out of 100 times or something like that. So no, but I don't know him personally, but good luck to him. I think he's a ripper player, so I'm looking forward to seeing his career for the next 10, 15 years.
Just wanted to touch very briefly on the 2018 grand final again. Did the week differ at all from 2015, do you think?
It was quite similar, to be honest. No, didn't differ too much. Luckily it was before COVID, so I didn't have to go on those boats and anything like that. But I was definitely way more mentally prepared. Well, not that I played in the first one, but it definitely prepared me a lot that following grand final.
You mentioned the premiership. It was the last game before you moved to Port Adelaide. Did that make it hard to celebrate?
It made me celebrate harder, to be honest, because I was with all the West Coast officials and everything like that. Didn't ever cross any lines or anything like that, but I just knew, I can't get in trouble here anymore. I'm going somewhere else. So, not that I got in trouble too much anyway, but it was just more so having a bit more fun and not really worrying about too much what's going to be like when I come back in the summertime at West Coast, because I left with a lot of good relationships and everything like that intact, so that was the main thing that I wanted to leave with. What
was the move back home about for you?
Actually, my old man got a bit crook, so he had a benign tumour on his brain, so they took that out. I think it was over 10 hours of surgery to get that out. He can't hear out of his ear anymore, one of his ears. So that happened 2 years before I moved back, and I think that was just a bit of in the back of my mind the whole time. I was like, if I get an opportunity to come back, I would take it. As I said, I've been away from Mum and Dad for 10 years when I came back by the time then. So the timing lined up, and I was wanted by Port, so it was a no-brainer.
Did you leave West Coast on good terms?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. So I still got a lot of good mates that are there. Not too many that everyone's getting a bit older now, so everyone's quite young West Coast. They're trying to rebuild and stuff at the moment. So, but yeah, I mean, if I went to West Coast now, I'm sure there'd be a few people I could ring up and say, "You want to have a beer?" and they'd say, "No worries." So that's the main thing.
You were part of the West Coast list that rebuilt and went to the top. What do you think was so important for you guys in that build?
I think we just had the perfect blend of youth experience. So, you know, like for example, when I was drafted, Gaffy, Jack Darling, myself, Jeremy McGovern were in the same draft that West Coast picked in the 1 year. So, and then we got Jamie Cripps, who was in the same draft that St Kilda picked him up. So that was a very good draft for West Coast. So, you know, to have 4 players that could have an impact in a game, such a big game like that from the same draft, I think that's kind of the keys of how like clubs can be successful. So you just have to, be good at the draft, which is tougher, easier said than done.
In that 2018 season, when did Port Adelaide come to you and say, "Hey, do you want to come home"?
It would have been probably around 8, something like that, I think, or maybe halfway through the year. So yeah, like I said, the year before that I was a bit injured and stuff like that. So I think there was a little bit of interest there, and then that year I started to really take my game to another level, and that's when the interest started peaking, and it wasn't too early in the season, but once I started putting a few games together, then they came.
Clubs approach players not at the end of the season or towards the end of the season. It is very much a full year kind of deal that you guys have to deal with other clubs asking questions.
Depends on like the type of player you're looking for and how consistent they are and what they like as a person. So yeah, I mean, it probably varies for everyone. I can't judge. I can only go by my experience. So, but I'd assume it's just a year-round thing. So depending on what the club's after and what kind of person and player. So yeah.
What's your time like at Port Adelaide?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, no, it was good. So yeah, to be able to play. I remember I used to love coming over, playing against Port or Crows, playing on Adelaide Oval. Play here every second week. Yeah, it was pretty special. So yeah, it's just one of those things I miss a bit. So something I remember.
What was your favourite round to play on?
The G. Yeah, definitely the G. So yeah, it's pretty special, and there's Adelaide Oval second. Optus was pretty good too.
Optus had its moments, eh?
Yeah, I was only there for 1 year, so maybe that's why I put Adelaide Oval in.
You played in the All-Stars game against Victoria. What was that like, being selected for such a, prestigious honour, and on top of that was to raise money for the bushfires? Did that sit with you, and was that a nice little present? Yeah,
it was unexpected. I think Nick Nat was unavailable, so they picked me, but I'd also been obviously part of the grand final the year before, so it probably didn't, that helped my cause. But yeah, it was very surprising, very humbling, I was very honoured to be a part of it. But yeah, the thing I remember out of that game is, I've never rewatched that game, but I do remember Dusty tried to argue me, and I got him done holding the ball, so I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah, I reckon you should frame that, put that up on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, I need to go. I'll probably do that tonight. I might watch that tonight. No footy on Thursday night, man.
Oh yeah, no, there isn't. What do you, off topic a little bit, but what do you make of Thursday night football?
Love it. Yeah, bring it every round. Yeah, because it's just perfect, especially for all the footy clubs. You finish training on Thursday, pick the select team, you're watching the footy. So for footy players, like the training, it's perfect. But I think all the supporters, I think everyone loves it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring it out every round next year.
End of last season, you retire. What made that decision for you?
My body, yeah. I mean, I could have kept playing, so I've had offers to keep playing, but from I think it was July, I had knee clean out. October, I had a knee clean out. February, I had a knee clean out. And the February one, part of my knee was chipped off my kneecap, so that was about the size of a 50-cent coin. That was stuck in the joint of my knee. So yeah, I think I made the right call, but it was hard at first, but I think I knew deep down that my body wasn't up to it. So I think rather than playing for another year or two and being pretty much like a busted ass, because the pressure is quite big. So when your body's letting you down, when you know you can go better than what you're playing and be better, it's quite tough. So I played for 13 years. I'm grateful for what I did, so I was pretty content to retire at the time.
In terms of when you say the pressure is massive, just describe to someone the 5 minutes before you run out onto the MCG in front of 100,000 people, or Optus Stadium in front of 60,000 people, or the Adelaide Oval in front of 55,000 people. What's that 5 minutes like?
It's pretty hard to put into words, but it's just the pressure of the moment. You're thinking about everything you could think of. You're thinking about the game, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about how you're going to play, you think just everything you can think of is going through your mind. And I suppose once the game starts, that's probably the best time, because then everything goes out of your mind and you're focusing on what you need to do. So I was just waiting for that siren to blow for the first quarter, and then it all goes away.
Now we're here, lovely Port District Football Club. What does this club mean to you, and what made you sign here?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of mates that play here and have played here for a while. I used to come down here quite a bit. Even when I was at Port, I'd come down here on a Saturday night if we had a Thursday or Friday night game and enjoy a beer or something like that. And yeah, it's just love the club. So it's just basically, I grew up in a country town playing footy, and Port Districts is like a country footy team in the city. So very family orientated club. The president, Hawkey, he's got me my job at Rainwise. So he's the director at Rainwise as well, so he's basically not my double boss, the district's boss and my work boss. And yeah, it's just like one big family down here, so I'm really enjoying it.
Hey guys, just thought I'd drop in, let you know that the shots you're seeing right now are from the Anzac Day game in which Port District took on the Glenunga Rams, and I was down there that day. The atmosphere, absolutely brilliant. If you want to be part of the same atmosphere, guess what? You can. This weekend, the boys are back at home, Saturday, 2:15, taking on Broadview, and we are back at Country Home Living Reserve. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely top-notch. Get down there, and the best part, entry is free. Make sure you're down there.
Yeah, it's something different. I'm not used to being able to hear people from the sidelines because it's just so loud. So you hear some interesting things playing local footy now. So it's fun though. It's you just go out there and try your best, but there's always going to be people that are going the other way, I suppose. But that's fun.
Across your 13 years, what's the best story you've got?
Story?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a few. It's hard. I probably should have had some prep for this question.
Yeah, sorry, that's my bad.
Best story? Oh, jeez. Well, I've told this story before on a podcast, I think, but I'll say it again. So when we won the flag, when I was at West Coast, we were flying back on the plane, and I'd only had about half an hour to sleep or something like that, and it's about a 4-hour flight from Melbourne to Perth, and we got to 3 hours in, we had an hour left, and I had 2 sleeping tablets that I hadn't used for the night before the grand final, and I thought, I'll just take them now, just so I get an hour's sleep, because we're going to need it for that night, because we're going to have another party that night, and took them, and they didn't kick in until we actually got off the plane, so I was dragged off the plane, placed on the bus and slept on the bus, and then we had the parade in front of all the West Coast supporters, and we weren't allowed to wear sunglasses, but I was the only one wearing them because I was asleep on the stage, so yeah, pretty funny.
What was that parade like then, I guess, being sleep?
Oh, I was pretty groggy. I wish I didn't do it, like looking back on it now, but it's a funny story, so it was pretty cool though. There would have been 60,000 supporters there in Perth, and it would be nice to remember a little bit more of that, but yeah, I think made for a really good story, so I wouldn't change it.
Were you in footy boots as well on the flight home? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, I was. It was a big night, so that's all I had in my boots. So wore them the whole way back, and that's when I was on stage wearing boots as well. So there's a few good stories around that time. So yeah, lucky.
Yeah, as there should be. Winning a flag home, and there would be great stories.
I was lucky, so definitely made a few good memories.
Returning back to Port District, third on the table at the minute in terms of the serious stuff. Do you guys think you can go all the way, win the flag?
I think we can, yeah. I think we just need to be a bit more consistent with our footy. Probably win a few more games at home would be nice. We haven't won at home yet. We've had a draw and 3 losses, so I think, we just need to be more consistent in some areas that we're working on. I think it's a long season as long as we can start, because we've seen it in patches. I think if we just consistently play at that high level for a whole game, dangerous team. So hopefully we can do that pretty soon. And I think it's definitely something we're aiming for.
Got some rapid fire questions for you here. Just first thing that comes to mind. Don't overthink it too much.
Okay.
Favourite moment of your career?
Grand final.
Yeah, I thought that was the answer. Hardest moment of your career?
Just injuries. Yeah, all the injuries I had, all the surgeries. So, that was hard.
Favourite player you played against?
Nick Nat. I played against all the West Coast boys I played with, but the hardest one was Aaron Sandilands.
Mm-hmm.
He's so big. So big. So, he was favourite as well.
Favourite teammate?
Gaff.
Favourite teammate at Port District?
Oh, jeez, don't do that to me. I can't answer that one. I've got too many.
Yeah, I knew you weren't going to answer that one. Best piece of advice you'd ever received?
I said it earlier, hard work beats talent every day. So just work hard, work harder than the person next to you, and that'll set you up.
And a piece of advice you'd have for someone that wants to get onto an AFL list or is on an AFL list right now?
Just don't give up, I think. I think if you work hard enough and it's your dream and you keep working at it, then don't give up at it, because basically in the end you're working at something that you love anyway. So even if it doesn't happen for you, you're still doing something like that is beneficial and that you enjoy.
And you're obviously now working outside of footy, involved obviously at Port District, but is there a little part of you that wants to return to the AFL scene one day?
Not sure. I definitely, when I retired, I thought I don't want to be around footy anymore for a bit, but I think, footy's just in my blood. So that's the same as my old man. He loves footy, born and bred with footy. So I would never say no, but I'm pretty happy where I am now with rain-wise. Installing pools is pretty fun and different. No pressure, no surgeries on your body, so a lot of benefits. But I'd be lying to say if that wasn't something that could potentially happen in the future. But I'll just wait and see.
Thank you very much, Scott. Really appreciate you coming on, and massive congratulations on your career as well.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.
Number 29, Scott Lycett.